Look at a world map. Your eyes automatically go to North America, Europe, Asia, Africa, the familiar giants. But down in the corner near the frozen South Pole, far away from everyone else, sits a strange pair of islands. New Zealand. If you were traveling from Cairo, Istanbul, Jakarta or Nairobi, reaching New Zealand wouldn't be easy at all. You would have to cross the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, the entire Indian Ocean, and finally the Tasman Sea, before landing in New Zealand after a long, exhausting 18 to 22-hour flight. It almost feels as if Earth intentionally hid this country at the edge of the world. And for most of human history, it succeeded. No traders came here. No armies arrived. No kingdoms expanded into it. No explorers mentioned it. New Zealand was simply not on the map, literally. But that changed when the greatest seafarers of the ancient world began a journey that defies logic even today. Chapter 2. The First Humans. A journey beyond fear. According to official records, the Maori people, New Zealand's first inhabitants, arrived around 1320 to 1350. They came from Polynesia, tiny islands scattered across the Pacific like droplets of sand. Now here's the crazy part. These people didn't have compasses. They didn't have metal ships. They didn't have maps. Yet they navigated the wildest ocean on Earth, using stars, waves, bird patterns, and clouds. The Polynesians were basically the Einsteins of ocean navigation. But the Maori themselves tell a much older story, far richer, far more dramatic. The legend of Kupe, 750 AD, Maori oral tradition says a fisherman named Kupe discovered New Zealand nearly 500 years earlier. His people depended on fishing, but a giant octopus kept stealing their catch. Frustrated, Kupe gathered 20-25 men, boarded a canoe, and chased the creature into the unknown Pacific. Days passed. The waves grew stronger. But then a coastline emerged. Not just any coastline. Tall white mountains touching the sky. Forests so dense they looked endless. Rivers like mirrors. This was Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud. New Zealand. Kupe returned to Polynesia and told others, "I have found a land with no enemies, no hunger, and no limits." And the migrations began. Life before the outside world. For the next 400-500 years, Maori tribes lived peacefully. They developed a deep spiritual bond with nature, warrior traditions, farming systems, community-based settlements. There were no foreign diseases, no weapons from abroad, no colonizers, no invaders. Just a people and their land. New Zealand remained hidden from the world. But not for long. The Europeans arrive, a collision of worlds. The year was 1642. A Dutch explorer named Abel Tasman became the first European to reach New Zealand. When he tried to come ashore, Maori warriors approached his ships. Not knowing who these strange men were, fear turned into misunderstanding. Misunderstanding turned into violence. Several of Tasman's men were killed. Tasman fled, without even setting foot on land. For Europe, the message was clear. This land is dangerous. For the Maori, strange spirits came and then ran. More than a century passed before another European dared to come. Then came Captain James Cook in 1769. Cook was bold. Cook was ambitious. Cook brought guns. Conflict broke out again. More Maori were killed, but Cook did not turn back. He made the first detailed map of New Zealand, a map that would change everything. Because once Europe had a map, settlers followed, traders followed, soldiers followed, and Britain began preparing for something much bigger: control. From trade to power, the British strategy. At first, the British came as traders. They offered guns, cloth, metal tools, alcohol. In return, they took land, timber, food, and influence. They used a simple formula: make trade attractive, make dependence inevitable, make control unavoidable. Tribes began relying on European goods. Settlers built towns and ports. Missionaries spread religion. British laws quietly expanded, and by the 1830s, Britain was ready for the final step. The treaty that changed everything. The treaty that changed everything. 1840. In 1840, the British introduced the Treaty of Waitangi. Many Maori chiefs signed it. But here's the twist. The English version and the Maori version had different meanings. Britain believed, New Zealand is now officially ours. Maori believed, we are entering a partnership sharing the land. Two interpretations, one piece of paper. Conflict was inevitable. The New Zealand Wars, 1845-1881. For almost 40 years, wars exploded across the islands. British soldiers versus Maori warriors. Modern rifles versus traditional weapons. Armies versus tribes. Entire Maori villages burned. Thousands died. Land was confiscated, and the population collapsed, from 200,000 to just 40,000. European diseases, influenza, measles, tuberculosis, devastated communities. Maori came close to extinction, but they survived. And eventually, the British needed them. Peace, politics, and recovery. By the late 1800s, Britain realized you cannot build a functioning country without including the indigenous people. So Maori gradually gained voting rights, representation, land negotiations, political involvement. Peace returned. Growth began. But a new mystery remained. Why were these beautiful islands still empty? To find the answer, we must look at the land itself. Geography, beautiful but brutal. New Zealand's South Island looks like a postcard, but living there is a nightmare. Here's why. 1. The Southern Alps dominate everything. These mountains are so tall and so steep that cities can't be built. Roads collapse. Snow blocks access. Landslides are constant. Earthquakes are frequent. The land is stunning, but useless for settlement. 2. The eastern side is too dry. On the South Island's east, rain is low. Soil is thin. Farming is nearly impossible. Infrastructure costs are insane. One highway can cost billions. One town can take decades. So people naturally avoided the South Island. Instead, they moved north. The North Island, where everyone lives. Nearly 70% of New Zealanders live on the North Island. Why? Because soil is fertile, rain is perfect, temperatures are mild, farming is easier, forests support life. But even here, one city eats everything. Auckland. Half the North Island's population lives in or near Auckland, making it one of the least affordable cities in the world. Why? Because demand is huge, land is limited. Immigration exploded after World War II. The immigration wave that changed the nation. Before World War II, New Zealand had strict rules. No non-white immigrants. The population stayed low. But after the war, everything changed. The country needed workers. It needed skills. It needed people. So the doors opened, and immigrants arrived from China, India, Philippines, Korea, South Africa, Pacific Islands. Today, 27% of New Zealand's population is foreign-born. Most of them live in Auckland, skyrocketing housing demand. So the government now offers 8,000 relocation grants to move people away from Auckland. Yes, they'll literally pay you to leave the city. The economy of sheep, a global powerhouse. New Zealand has 5 million people, 30 million sheep, 6 times more sheep than humans. And this isn't a joke. This is the backbone of the economy. New Zealand exports lamb, mutton, wool, beef, dairy products, and earns nearly $46 billion a year from agriculture. A country smaller than Pakistan's Sindh province, exporting more meat than most continents. That's how powerful their system is. Why New Zealand is still so empty. Let's finally answer the big question. Reason 1, harsh geography. Mountains, earthquakes, steep land, impossible for cities. Reason 2, remote location. Far from the world, slow population growth. Reason 3, late immigration. Strict entry rules until the mid-1900s. Reason 4, concentrated development. North Island had the best land. Auckland became the magnet. Reason 5, controlled urban planning. New Zealand protects nature fiercely. They don't allow chaotic cities to expand everywhere. This is why 80% of the country looks untouched, like Earth before humans arrived. The beauty of emptiness. New Zealand made a decision. We will protect our land even if it means staying small. And that decision gave birth to clean skies, clean rivers, zero pollution cities, world-class food, endless forests, stable economy, peaceful society. New Zealand is empty because they chose to keep it that way. And maybe, just maybe, that's why the world loves this country so much. So the next time someone asks, "Why is New Zealand so empty?" tell them, because sometimes a nation decides that nature is more important than numbers. New Zealand didn't fail to populate its land. It simply refused to destroy it. And in that choice lies the real beauty of this country.